If you stay too long, things can go south real quick, you know what I mean? Keep the groove going and find a way to like have a crescendo to it, you know, and get out. Because getting out is one of the most glorious parts of the whole thing. Like the whole part when you're actually soloing isn't as important as those last 1 second when you end it, and it sounds like the ending of it.
Yeah, you can fix a bad solo by ending it.
Yeah, punctuation.
Absolutely.
Can I say something to that?
Please do.
I think also the idea of not wanting to say everything at once. Like when you meet somebody new, you're not going to tell them everything about who you are. It's like you want to build a relationship with the band and with the audience, with everyone, that like you're going to make one statement now. And then later on you might make another statement. That it's like that's part of building a relationship with your audience for your whole career, I think, and your whole lifetime in playing.
Well, and I think that's a great point in terms of what we're doing here, and which is awesome. It's a conversation.
Should be.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. And again, if I'm talking all the time, you can't talk.
Right.
You know, that's not cool. But if I got nothing to say, then I need to know when to not say it. And I think we all have something to say. It's about, saying it.
Right. And a lot of times silence might even speak louder than words.
Mm-hmm.
The gaps.
That happens in language a lot. You know, if you ask me about my mom, or Bob Franceschini, our good friend, plays sax, comes here and teaches, is married to my manager, Jeanette. His mom just died 2 nights ago. So if you ask Bob about, hey Bob, tell me about your mom, and he said, oh well, she was born in Italy, and then she did this, and she told you all that, that would mean something. But if you said, Bob, tell me about your mother, and he just couldn't even talk, that would say more. That silence sometimes speaks louder. So I'm just saying that to learn how to incorporate silence into your playing. Let me just say one thing, Rod, hold that point for 1 second. Let me just say one thing about soloing first. And understand this. This is the mistake we all make, and I'm throwing myself in there too. Most of us, all of us think that our solo is about us. Right? Why not? It's my chance to talk. But it's not. Okay? Your solo is your chance to describe the song we're playing.
Yeah.
That's what it really is. Let's think about it as a story. Let's say I'm telling the story of Little Red Riding Hood. And I say, yeah, there's this little girl, she wore red all the time, she wore red hood, she wanted to go visit her grandmother, and so she baked some goodies, and she took off on a trail down the path. Okay, Andy, you finish your story. If he starts saying, well, I was born in Colorado, and I played the bass, we would go, that's not the story. But that's how we solo. We solo as if it's about us, and it's not. Right? If Kit's singing Summertime, your solo better be about summertime.
Mm-hmm. That's my problem when people switch gears where they go into the solo. And I'm not just talking about bass, I'm talking about music in general. Like if they drop into if we're playing a funk groove with a basic 4/4 backbeat, and that's the vibe, and that's where it's at, and that's where the feel is at, and then it goes into the solo, and they start going into some super esoteric stuff that they've been working on that's unrelated, but like trying to force it into a situation where it don't belong. That's when I'm instantly like, it's just like you just said. It's like I was waiting for the Red Riding Hood story, and I got the story about the guy who's learning how to tap on the fingerboard or something.
Exactly.
Now, if he had made the tapping go along with the original groove and the feel, and it made it work.
Then you're blown away.
Yeah, then
it's like, whoa.
Then you want more.
Then you
Give
want
me
more.
more.
Right.
But like changing up the groove or overly subdividing or going into some random. I'm just talking about actual musical things where I think I made mistakes, and I think other musicians sometimes make mistakes. Is they get away from keeping it with the groove that already is established. If Red Riding Hood is the groove, then stay with that. Don't try to put some new feel on it, or take it to jazz fusion land if you're in meat and potatoes Southern soul land.
Right. That's the problem. You hear these heavy jazz cats coming in and playing a funk tune or a blues, and they're taking a heavy jazz solo, which is impressive, but that's not what we're talking about. The real musicians will play what they're talking about, and that's what we want to be. We want to be those type of musicians. Rob, what were you going to say?
I was gonna say, very relevant to, I think, to this group, I think jams are hangs, essentially, social hangs. And what you do socially is more important than what you do musically. And you can really do yourself a lot of disservice in the jam. And I think particular to this group, we have a lot of bass players. And if you enter into a jam with more than one bass player, that should be always in the front of your mind. You know, when Vic started playing a groove, Andy didn't start playing what Vic was playing.
Right.
He went to a whole other spot of his bass and said something that complimented, but
Yeah.
he wasn't playing down the same register or picking up the same groove. It'd be like if we were talking and you just started saying what I was saying. That would make me like, what are you doing?
But I tell you what, I had to learn that. I had to learn that from Vic and Steve, because they kind of invented it.
Everyone has to learn it right at some point,
Bass
you
player
know.
jamming with bass players isn't something that happens on a regular basis. Usually there's one bass player on the gig.
And that's the reason, because it usually sucks. You know, when you get a lot of bass players together, it kind of sucks, because everyone's in the low register, they're all slapping and popping and slinging around, and yet if you listen to Steve and Vic, and you can put Petitucci in the middle of that, you know, you'll find them in different registers, or if they're in the same register, they're playing different parts, right? And so one might be playing the high part of the chord while Vic's just playing the root or something like that. And I think when
the
you
timbre of the instrument, adjust your sound a little bit to sound a little
roll off the
different,
bass,
so that a
if someone's already got the back end, then I'm going to roll out the bass on my end, so I'm not competing. And then if you're entering into, if Vic starts the jam, I'm going to make sure that I'm softer than him when I roll it.
Beautiful.
Right? Because volume irritates everyone. And we all know that, right? No matter what instrument you're playing, but especially with bass, I think, if I'm the second bass player in the jam, I want to be less than the first bass player because I've been invited to join them. So I want to come in and not go, hey! You know? So the word I use often is like...
That brings up a whole other thing about just musical etiquette, about being polite. Like, we're taught to be polite in public, right? You hold the door for somebody when you're walking out of the Dunkin' Donuts or whatever, you just do that. It's just natural to be polite. I think that as musicians, that should be absolute second nature to us at all times, is to be polite and friendly and cordial in everything that we do musically as well. Meaning, you know, just because someone, and a lot of times if you see someone who's on some kind of a trip and it's obviously all about them or whatever, we have to be careful that we don't let them lead us down the path. You know what I mean?
Hey, one of the world's greatest bass players is walking up right now. You may or may not know his name. It doesn't matter, but this is one of the greatest. This is a longtime friend of mine named John Billings. John's amazing. We've known each other since way back when we all lived in Virginia. And I remember one time, and we'll get back to this subject. We're just doing a talk.